Hi, James.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are
My
you?
headphones don't seem to be working this morning. So you opened up another PR. Thanks.
I got stuck in something. I couldn't find the ways to test the changes I was making. I have more changes, but I couldn't test them.
Okay. Maybe we can add something to the agenda and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I think a debugger setup might work. I've done that. I'll, I'm not sure how to use it. I will.
A few minutes for everybody else to pull in too. Know where everybody is. Usually people start rolling in right about now.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe people forgot about it.
It's a bit scary how zoomed in that camera is. It doesn't do that on Teams. I'm going to have to stand across the other side of my office to.
Are you standing, Simon?
I've been sitting down too much.
Yeah. Yeah, people are starting to file in here. I can put the agenda in the meeting. If you want to add anything? And I guess we can probably go ahead and get started. All right, I will kick off the meeting officially, unless there's any volunteers for hosting. Anybody want to be a note taker?
Yeah, I'll help
Dave.
with note taking.
Okay, David, Dan.
And
Team
David and
effort.
I will come on here.
I'm gratefully bow to you, Dan. You get it.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome everyone. The recording's been going for a couple of minutes now, but we're going to kick off the meeting officially. This is the Hyperlight community meeting. We meet fortnightly. We are a CNCF project, and so we follow the CNCF guidelines. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to any of the leads here or anybody from the CNCF. And the guidelines essentially come down to respecting each other and having respectful conversations. So with that, we can kick it off. It is March 4th, and we have a few items on the agenda. We have just talking about the release and the debug crash jump PR. We have the ring buffer hip and the snapshot first issue that Simon just started. Anything else anybody would like to add? Great. I guess I can share my screen and we can go from there with the agenda. Okay, can you see that?
I see it.
Cool. So I think we're still working on getting the final bits of the release out. We realized last week that the copy and write broke tracing and debugging, and we know we have some downstream support on both of those, or some downstream consumers of those. So I think Doru, you opened up a PR and we got the tracing changes in, and then you helped me with this crash dump stuff. It got pretty involved. But I think at this point we have the tests passing and everything is working. We just need to finalize some of the reviews. It follows the tracing pretty closely, but if you can get a chance to review it, this is, I think, the last blocking item for a release. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I see that Lucy had a look on it, at least skim through it. So if
Yeah,
she's fine by
she was suggesting another way to grab or to set that up so it doesn't GB doesn't remap us. I can also just drop that commit and we can follow up, but it's not critical, I don't think, at all. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, some point last week I updated Hyperlight JS, so it's a little bit of work to do there, but it should be able to take account of that release when we do it. And I'm trying to get a PR into there to actually publish the Node API to Node.js to NPM as part of this next release cycle.
Okay.
And I think we merged yesterday support for Hostjs, JavaScript host functions in the Node.js API for Hyperlight JS. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Basically, if you write a host in JavaScript, you can write host functions in JavaScript now.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So I appreciate everybody reviewing that quick so we can get on with this release. I will be responsive to the feedback.
So James, initially we had planned to make the release today. Are we waiting on merging the crash dump PR?
Yes, yeah, we have to. That's the last blocking item that I'm aware of.
Got it.
Yep. Okay, let's see. So I put this one on there. So this hip has been out for a while, and there's some conversations around how do we move forward with these. I think we're generally all in agreement around direction. There's a couple unknowns, and so I think we have a couple options. We can merge this as is and mark the unknowns, or we could also maybe come up with some labels for the hips that are like, initial, accepted, needs more research, and then also come up with some sort of regular cadence to review these hips. So that because right now, I guess we've heard some feedback that we're unknown as to like what's the state of this hip. Are we moving forward with it? Are we not moving forward with it? Like, do we still have to do more research? And so I think it would be nice to have some sort of clarity there through like labels or by merging it as like accepted or something like that. But I think I maybe put forward to like meet every other one of these meetings to make sure we always review hips that are open, that type of thing. And that way we can come and say, hey, this one needs more details, or we need a label on this one so that people know what's going on, and we can post a thing, we can have a conversation. And if there's any details we need to flesh out, we don't need to flesh them out in this meeting, but we could spin off a subset of meeting for people who are deeply interested in that particular topic to figure it out and then come back to the team and report back. So I want to propose that kind of idea. And if anybody, I guess what I could do is potentially write that down in a more succinct way, so that we can all sign off on it, I guess. I don't know. So two questions. One is meta, and then the second one is I think just make sure that we all are in agreement here on this, and we can just say we're generally in agreement. We're going to come up with some labels to mark this thing as ready to go.
I'll say I like the idea of labels. I think at least it gives continuity to the process of the hip, and it doesn't seem like, it was dropped and didn't really continue off of after that. For the sort of ad hoc meetings to go into unknowns, James, what did you have in mind for setting those up? I assume they wouldn't be part of the community meetings, or will we chat in Slack? And
so I would say it would be in Slack. And the way I've done this in the past in like the Kubernetes ecosystem was we have this big one here. I think this is probably like the biggest unknown on this hip. And what we can do is during one of the reviews, we say, okay, yeah, we generally like the direction of this, but this is an unknown. We say, okay, who's interested in this unknown? Okay, go have a meeting and do it in Slack. So we can open up a Zoom. We have access to Zoom. And then they can discuss the deep technical details of this issue, post it back to here, and then bring it back to the next meeting for that. And so that way we can have some sort of like continuation and movement forward. So it would be, hey, all right, looks like there's still an open issue in this meeting. Who's interested in flushing that out and report back next time. And then the next meeting, we would review what the outcome of that kind of deep detail dive was.
cool, I like that. So another topic that we discussed before was what's our determining factor for merging HIP? Is that when it's accepted, when we add the accepted label, or is merging after, I guess, a step after accepted? What are you imagining there?
Yeah, I don't have a deep opinion here. I think we could merge it and then open up PRs to fix it later. But I know there's been some discussion to be like, hey, let's just keep it open, and if we just move it through these labels, then when we're done and we like most of the implementation is done and we feel pretty good, we'll just sign it off and merge it as completed. I think that's an acceptable solution as well. I don't have a strong opinion either way. So I don't know if other folks on the call would like to speak up. I don't see comments right now because of the view I'm in. So I don't know if there's messages in the side chat. So
Yeah, Lucy said in the chat, I would like the merge point to be at or after ready for implementation or major questions resolved. So I guess maybe what we could do is we establish the set of labels that we'll have, maybe right initial, under review, accepted, or rejected. I guess maybe changing the wording there, right? But with that, we then can have the ad hoc meetings, discuss, and once we're ready, set into merge, and then so the HIP will be the single source of truth for all the discussions that are going on around it. One question I still have with this is, do we have a timeline for when we plan to make things be initial, under review, accepted, or sort of play by ear?
I think if we are continually if we actually stick to a regular cadence of reviewing these, so starting every other meeting or something like that, every once a month, starting that meeting with a review of them, then we will continue to move them forward through that process. And then we don't need to necessarily put a timeline on it. We could, but I think that would be enough as long as we stick to it. If we don't stick to it, then that doesn't work. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, I have a slightly different question going off on a slight bit of a tangent. I was sort of curious to maybe I'm trying to scroll on your screen here. Did the comments that appear in this pull request, are they comments against the actual underlying document, or are some of them just comments in the pull request? It looks like it's a mixture of both. I suppose ultimately my point is it's hard to resolve the comments if they're not actually on the HIP itself.
What do you mean on HIP itself? Do you mean actually cited in
On
a
the
line?
Markdown document where,
Yeah.
so, I highlight the text in the document and make the comment at that point, and then we can resolve it and track it and so on, versus dumping a comment in the PR conversation.
Fair. That seems like good feedback and like maybe good etiquette for for us to practice, right?
The reason I bring this up is because the next thing we're going to talk about is the issue I opened, and it became abundantly obvious as soon as I did that it's not actually a great format for that sort of interaction.
All right. So I think the best format for these kinds of interactions, at least early on, is like Google Doc. Putting it into a document where we can socialize with the group and have like community access to that Google Doc. So go in, comment, and we start to hash out the largest pieces within there. And then hopefully by the time we get it over to here into a PR, we actually have a relatively stable form. Most of the big issues have been discussed. At least this is the way that I've seen it work or seen it be manageable in larger Kubernetes projects. I don't know. Do folks have an opinion on that?
So, David, I think one concern I would have with Google Docs is that it just hurts a little bit on the discoverability of these HIPs, right? So, someone that's coming across a project and wants to maybe know status or contributing, how do they find those Google Docs?
Awesome. Excellent question. Let's imagine I create an issue for hey, I want to add ring buffers and need ring buffers for faster data plane access. Fantastic, awesome. And so the issue gets there, and then the link to the preliminary doc. And so somebody can find the issue, and then we can look through the doc, and eventually the PR opens associated to the issue, yada yada yada. You know, but I do agree with you, yeah. And also, a lot of times these are actually disseminated over a mailing list. So we do have Google Groups associated, like, and we can turn that on and start to use those mailing lists a little bit more to make sure that folks that aren't really like listening to every single issue that gets posted can at least see, like, oh hey, yeah, I pinged the mailing list, and if you want to get involved here, cool.
Okay, so I think can we like actionable things we can take away from this is an agreement to meet, I don't know, every other week or once a month to review HIPs specifically. Any objections to that? Okay, any objections to using labels on the HIPs to be like um, uh, in progress, under review, and completed? Maybe the names of those will be slightly different, but some sort of labels like that. Any objections to that?
No, although Lucy's feedback was keep it open until it's implemented, so you probably need a few more things in the life cycle, but
Okay.
detail.
Yeah. And then for this HIP, well, I guess we need to know the life cycles, but I would say for this HIP, I think the only kind of outstanding item that I'm aware of is this one around um, the direction of the queues and how many queues we have. Does anybody have any other outstanding items on this? Okay. I think I put this as to like we could mark this as like agreed with um, this is an unknown, and so that Mosh could move forward with the implementation. Does that sound reasonable? And we can leave this particular item open, and then we can come back to it, and he can post what he discovers as he's adding the implementation. That work?
I guess my question ultimately is the end state of this document representing what's get implemented, or is the document plus all the comments and the resolution of those comments what gets implemented? Because to me, it would be better if the document was edited to represent what's getting implemented. And the hard thing for me with this right now is there's so many comments in it. It's really hard to understand what's actually going on. I don't know whether that's around the process or the etiquette of creating these things, but
Yeah, I agree with Simon. I feel like the feedback from the comments should make its way back into the HIP document so that it's more readable and easier to understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Also
So
want
as as we resolve the comments, it should get pushed into the document. Yes.
Also voicing Lucy from the chat here. I think the way the comments are being resolved is generally happening via editing the document underneath, and I think that should happen. So I think we're in agreement here.
Okay, so then I think the next action item is for Mosh to go and mark the ones that are resolved, and then he can go and start implementing, and we'll get a label system up. I'll post it into Slack, what I propose, and then we can hash that out there. Hopefully it won't be too, we can start with something and iterate from there. Pretty good.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, James, for taking
One more question, James.
Yeah.
How do we get from, okay, the doc's resolved, it says what we're going to do, we're going to implement it. How does that turn into somebody doing some work? Is that Tomash's responsibility to go break it down and create some issues, or what's the...
I think whoever's kind of owning it, moving it forward, trying to move it forward. And I think during the meetings, we can identify that. It's like, okay, we're ready to move forward with this, Tomash, or who's implementing, go forth. Create like I don't know if we want issues or what, or just open PRs linked to this cap, or how we do that. Not 100% sure, but I would think issues maybe. And if we don't have any implementers, then we should be like, okay, we'll put it on maybe we need a label for that, like future work. This has been approved, but we don't have anybody to actually go implement it. But I don't know that that'll happen too often.
So should we then create a label for that specific, maybe I missed this and zoned out a moment ago, but should we create a label for this particular HIP and then attach it to all the issues and or pull requests and then that way we can search and find them and whatnot. And I think I don't want to put words in Lucy's mouth, but I suspect that part of the reason she wants to keep it open is that you've got that sort of traceability of what was actually done.
Yeah, I like that idea. How it feels.
Sorry, I got distracted while taking notes of a previous comment. So the issue comment here is that for the resolution of a HIP, other than having everything agreed on, we'll also create issues so that we're tracking the work that's coming out of the HIP. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, once we're ready to move forward with it, we'll create the issues to actually track the work that you have to do, and they just need to have a label that points back to the HIP. Okay. Dor.
Yeah, I have a question. So this kind of work, it's like a big chunk of work, so it might get merged in smaller PRs. How do we trace those in? As in, the HIP itself is not merged until everything is merged, right? So how do we track those? Because there might be changes that aren't specifically related to anything else beside this.
I think that's what Simon just suggested, was we put a label that on any issues or open PRs that point back to this HIP so that we can pull all the work related to it.
Okay.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? It's not going to be perfect, but it's a step forward, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these things we'll probably learn more as we try them out, and we'll perfect the process as we move forward. So I think main point here is just to set a direction so that we try things.
Excellent. Okay. Next one, snapshot issue. Simon, you want to take the floor?
Yeah, I think this partially continues from what we just said, right? This started from a HIP I created, which was probably too detailed and too narrow, and also didn't actually implement what we wanted to in the correct way. So I said I'd go away and look at this from the point of view of, so that HIP was about basically sharing guest binaries across all the sandboxes in the process, so we weren't wasting memory. Right? So the discussion we had about that turned into a wider discussion about using snapshots as the basis for creating sandboxes, which is effectively what Lucy's work has already started us down the path of. And therefore, if we were to have different serialization mechanisms then, rather than just being able to serialize to a vector of bytes, we maybe serialize to a file, then we can use that as the basis of creating sandboxes. So I went away and wrote some goals and some requirements for that. Some of those requirements I think are probably not contentious, and some of them may be a little bit more contentious. But going back to the discussion we just had, this feels like totally the wrong format for what I just did. Because if you go down, Doru and Lucy have put comments in here, quite a lot of good comments. But you can already see that it's sort of hard to resolve those comments in this format. So it feels like it was an enormous own goal creating this as an issue. On the other hand, it didn't feel like it fit into the spirit of what a HIP was, because it was much more, at least in my mind, it was a directional thing. It was saying, hey, we should change our API and make it better. And here's a roadmap of things we can do once we start down that path. We can start having more efficiency, but we can end at maybe being able to distribute snapshots through registries and verify them and all sorts of other things, right? So the granularity of it to me didn't fit in with the HIP. I stupidly created an issue because it doesn't really fit into being a pull request, although I suppose we could just create a requirements or something within our documentation and ignore the HIP process for stuff like this, or I can shoehorn this into the HIP process. So anyway, my first point is not about what's in it. It's about the process of us creating something like this, because I think we should do this in other areas where we have a sort of, between us, we probably have a rough understanding of where we're going in different areas, but we haven't written it down so no one else can see it. And I think if we can find the right way of doing that, it makes it much clearer to people what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, a little bit of how we're trying to achieve it, and hopefully helps people think about whether Hyperlight is useful to them or not moving forwards, or maybe places that they can contribute. So I'm not really sure I want to talk about the content of this, because I think I need to reopen it somewhere else and get Doru and Lucy's comments into that new format and start reviewing it in that way. And then maybe come back in another meeting and go through all those comments and try and get some consensus. I don't know whether anyone's got any thoughts or feedback on that, but I'm quite happy to try and shoehorn it into a HIP, or just create a requirements document in the repo, and open it as a PR to that or something like that. Or David was saying, use a Google Doc. Well, I could use a Google Doc, I guess. David.
I was just going to use Lucy's words and put them into the record for posterity. She has two comments here. I think that is actually something IPS could be really good for if we had some more early life cycle states for goals still under discussion. Otherwise, I like David's suggestion of using a shared document that is easy to comment on.
So my question would be, let's say we used Google Docs for this, how does someone know it exists? Because it's sort of separate from the repo. So if I arrive at a repo and like, what's going on here, and it's not immediately obvious to me that thing would exist. I suppose it's a different way of the same question that Dan had earlier on.
I mean, we can write it up as we can turn discussions on. I don't know if you like discussions in GitHub. That's one way. Another way, like as we brought up earlier, is creating an issue, pointing to it. There are, as you said, mailing lists that you can configure the Google group associated to it, and you get the mailings of, hey, I got this really great idea, folks. I'd love to get other maintainers to take a look and discuss. Jordan?
Yeah, I see the Google Docs as more of an intermediate step, as where we could use it as a tool to correctly track the comments and highlight and see the differences. But once it gets into a state that we can use, then we can materialize it in something inside the repo, a discussion, or an issue, whatever.
Yeah, and I guess for discoverability, you can open an issue like this and link out to the doc. And somebody that comes across this, they can click on the link and go check it out.
Okay. And we have a CNCF account. We should create those docs under, or we do create under our GitHub IDs, or what? How's that work?
You can you can use whatever Google account you want to subscribe to a Google group. There is a maintainers dashboard that allows us to manage different things associated with the CNCF projects. And so that would probably be like, creating a group and I think managing some aspects of the group. James, am I missing things here?
Yeah, so I think maybe you're talking about the mailing list specifically, David. Yeah, so I think, Simon, were you asking about where do I put this document? Is it in my personal Google? Is it in?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What I've seen in Kubernetes is people just either create on Google Docs or a HackMD or on their own personal thing, and then they just share that link. It's not great because all that context goes away if that person decides to delete that file. But the intent is to, as Duro said, was to make it a temporary thing, and then the meat of the thing actually lands in the hips in the actual repository, which is not owned by an individual. And that way, if something doesn't ever really get past that, like, hey, this isn't an idea that we're interested in, it doesn't actually ever land in the repository. I think that's one of the upsides of that.
Okay, so go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, just overall, then the steps here would be, hey, I've recognized something that perhaps I want in Hyperlight or something I want to change. I create an issue. At that point, to make something more malleable or easier to discuss on, I create a Google Doc or a HackMD, add that to the issue so people can go in and comment. Once the details are hashed out, we create a HIP and then the HIP would be mostly for agreement and I guess final cleanup and to go under the voting process and proper review. Does that sound right?
Yeah. And I would propose that we don't have to necessarily follow that process for everything. Like you may just go right to HIP because you already know it or whatever. But if you're unclear in a situation like this where you have a bunch of ideas but you don't know how to break them up or whatever, that might be a good opportunity for you to go towards the document.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to either create a HackMD or a Google Doc, whichever one seems the most easy to use. I'm going to take this content and move it over there. I'm going to take the bad thing about doing this is all the comments will be attributed to me, but to save Doru and Lucy the pain of having to re-comment, I will insert their comments at the right point and then reply to them. I'll update the issue to point at it, and yeah, hopefully everyone else who wants to have a say on this can do so. And I don't know then whether we want to review it as if it were a HIP, or I don't know how to get that from that to the HIP, but maybe we'll figure that out as we go along. I do think that there's probably a few more areas that we should think about doing something like this with as well. You know,
Yeah, I haven't gone in detail here, but like initially, like just scanning it, I see like the vision, like there's a bigger vision here, and then I can see like probably like 3 or 4 different like individual hits for each of those subsections.
Yep.
So maybe that's like the next steps. But if we can get an agreement on the general vision through the document, and then we can break it out from there, and start signing things off to people. All right, cool. So in 2 weeks, we'll come back and revisit these hips, and I will have a set of labels applied, or to yay, nay from the team, and we'll go from there. David?
You have a hand up.
Small point of order. Yeah, actually, March 18th works. Isn't it the following week that's going to be KubeCon EU?
Yeah, it's the following week.
Yeah, so we may have folks there. Do we also want to talk about a little bit about meeting cadence? So we were thinking about, I'll go into it. Um, One of the things to make these meetings a little bit more accessible for folks is right now we have this set up as a 9 a.m. Pacific time meeting and fortnightly. We'd like to introduce a second meeting at an earlier time that would be more conducive to our European colleagues and community members. So I believe that time is going to be, was it 7 a.m. Pacific, which would be 4 p.m. Central European time? Is that correct? Okay, and so we'll do these on staggered weeks. I have not set it up just yet, but I will be going in and setting that up in the CNCF maintainers dashboard. So just wanted to make folks aware. I'll update the documentation, the HackMDs and stuff like that. And so hopefully this helps us have these communications a little bit more often and be able to get through these and bring more people in to be able to chat. So obviously everybody's welcome to come to all of them. If you want to get up early on the West Coast, come and join us. If you want to be up late in Europe, please come and join us as well. And every other place. If you find that your time zone is not it's not being covered well, please speak up, and we can try to do our best to make it as accessible and engaging for all of our community members.
All right. Is there anything else we want to discuss with the last couple minutes? Otherwise, we can adjourn the meeting. All right, once, going twice. Have a good morning, day, night, wherever you are.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Later, everybody.
Thank you.
Cheers.